strategy in Google combined with word of mouth, combined with good experience, right? You start spinning this business upwards. And then in terms of, community, I mean, that's like front and center.
Welcome to Spokes and Strategy, Marketing the Bicycle with Brandon Morphew and Chris Mailman of Miso Partners. Welcome back to Spokes and Strategy, the business of bikes and joy of riding. Today's guest made a move that a lot of shops think about and almost nobody actually commits to. They stopped taking service appointments intentionally and replaced it with a fast upfront assessment so customers know when they're leaving the store, exactly what work's getting done, what it'll cost, and when they'll get their bike back. And the wild part is labor didn't dip, it actually grew. So we're going to unpack how it works, what it fixes, what it breaks, and what you need in place if you ever want to try it. I'm your host, Brandon Morphew, flying solo today. Chris might still be recovering from that Atlas race in Morocco. Today, I'm joined by Colin McKenna, GM and partner at Colonial Bicycle Company in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Colin, good to have you on. Before we nerd out on service flows and what's happening in the business, I'd love to talk about bikes and joy, a quick little warm-up.
Yeah.
What are you riding right now?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I mean, right now, February of 2026, I'm not doing too much bike riding in New England. But I've got two bikes that I really love right now. I'm riding a Trek Emonda aluminum, so ALR, that I've built up with Dura Ace. And it's just, for me, it's just become just a tool that allows me to ride the road bike fast. And the aluminum definitely gives me that little bit more visceral of a ride feel, which lately has just been something I've been enjoying. So that bike is definitely one of my favorites right now. But then in the fall, right before the winter, I picked up a pivot switchblade that has just really blown me away. I mean, that thing, it climbs just as well as it descends for being an all mountain enduro bike, and it pedals through everything. And if you don't want to think about it and you just want to point and shoot, it does that as well. So that's been a lot of fun. I'm looking forward. Once we get out of this winter and back into some proper riding conditions, I'm looking forward to taking that switchblade back out. So those are the two I'm bouncing between right now.
I have a pivot myself, so I have the 429 SL, the XC
Nice.
bike, and I love it. And I'm a big Dave Weigel fan in general. I love split pivot, DW Link. These are fantastic suspension systems. Wonderful.
They ride really well. It's hard to argue with that.
It is. I agree. Yeah. So let's say it's not the middle of winter and there's not 4 feet of snow on the ground. Imagine that scenario. You have to send someone out on one ride in Portsmouth to make them or help them to fall in love with bikes. Where are you sending them?
I mean, I think the easy lever there is from Portsmouth, you head up right around Newcastle Island and then ride down Coastal Route 1A. Kind of through Rye Beach down into Hampton even. It's just such a, from Newcastle all the way down to Hampton, that stretch it's pretty magical to be right along the ocean. The views are nice, the air is nice, the landscape is nice. It's not a challenging ride, it's flat, but the road is winding. I mean, you're right up against the ocean, and just kind of being in that space it's pretty magical. That's the go-to around here. If there's one route to choose, that's the route I'm choosing for sure.
Nice. Yeah. I agree with you, and I think you could keep going up or down along that coast in either direction. Absolutely. Up into Maine or down into Massachusetts, and you're going to have an epic adventure. It's wonderful.
Easily.
Some of my favorite riding. Right on. Okay, so let's rewind. Let's get back to bikes and your childhood. 13 years old, you do a 51-mile charity ride on a Diamondback Outlook, which I'm assuming is a mountain bike. Is that a road bike? Yeah, mountain bike.
No,
right?
it's a mountain bike. So think of 26-inch. To be honest with you, it probably was an aluminum frame because I don't remember it being that heavy. But 26-inch fully rigid, right? Like the original the original gravel bike, if you will.
Yeah,
But it had, knobby tires on it, and probably Shimano 3x7 speed, whatever,
yeah,
Alivio, Torney.
yeah, yeah.
That was the bike that started it all for sure.
Yeah, what did it unlock for you?
I think it unlocked this. I think that was like the first time I probably had a real connection with what I would call like fitness. I think I was so young, I didn't really understand what fitness was or what being in shape really was. I was 13 years old, but I think what it created was a relationship with kind of pushing the body a little bit and also having some freedom and independence. And I think for me, fast forward 20 some years later, um, that to me is really what endurance sport has become for me, kind of this connection, this personal freedom combined with sort of a personal push, and those two together kind of create something pretty magical, especially when you're out on a bike. The ability to push, but also the ability to be completely free. I think that was really what started it all.
I know that feeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a major unlock.
yeah,
Yeah, I have several of those memories myself. So you get a Trek 1000,
yes,
2004.
yep,
I had that bike as well.
yeah,
Maybe a little bit older, but in that range. And
yep,
yeah, you get into racing. So
yep.
what do you think you learned from racing that still kind of shows up in your day to day in the shop?
I think the first thing I learned with racing a bike is it's not like running. I had been a runner, so when you're running, you go out and you know your pace and you set your pace and you hold your pace as long as you kind of possibly can. You can kind of flatline a little bit, but cycling is much more about recovery, and there's much more intelligence and there's much more finesse and logistics and tactics, and actually kind of doing the opposite. You kind of want to pedal as little as possible until you need to, and then you kind of go. And so when I think what that translates to me, sort of, whether it's in life or in work or anything like that, which is this need to be adaptable. I think bike racing is one of these corners of the sport where you have to be flexible and you constantly have to read the room, and you can only you can prepare for a race or you can prepare for an event by training, but ultimately the race is going to unfold how the race unfolds, right? There's so many things in bike racing that are out of your control. And I think what that really instilled in me is this idea of being flexible, being able to change, being able to adapt, rolling with the punches, but at the same time kind of respecting that even if you train for something and you have really good fitness and really good form and really good numbers, and you lose the race, that doesn't really define who you are. And so on that side of the thing, it's like, I think bike racing in a way also, it's demonstrated to me that the result doesn't define the individual all the time. Winning bike races, I think to this day, winning a bike race, any bike race, is one of the most difficult sporting endeavors, period, because the fastest guy doesn't always win. Um, and so I think for me, it's resilience, it's head on a swivel, it's being able to roll with the punches as they come in real time. I think that's what bike racing really really taught me.
Mhm. And how does that show up in the shop? Like is there something that you think about where it's like, that's a pretty clear, either direct line or dotted line to that,
Yeah.
that sort of day to day activity.
I think that retail, I'm sure bike retail isn't alone in this or isn't isolated in this, but I think retail in general, is like bike racing in that you never know what the day is going to bring. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know what problems, challenges are going to happen. You don't know what supplier is going to raise their prices, lower their prices, delay a shipment, change a product. You don't know. There's so many unknowns.
Hmm.
But that doesn't stop us from preparing. We're still going to prepare. We still have a plan. We still have um, a lot of internal dialogues about how to do things better. So we continue to plan, but at the same time we don't look at individual day performance and go, oh, that defines us, right? No, it's bigger than that. It's how do we treat our customers and communities over longer periods of time? How do we make sure that the planning and preparation that we're doing is actually driving the business in the direction that we want to go? And so again, it's thinking bigger picture, not being so narrow and not being so focused. I think that's the parallel between bike racing and bike retail. Um, Long-term success is predicated on having a process in place that manifests long-term success. And so, if Tadej Pogacar doesn't win the Tour de France this year, people are probably still going to consider him the best cyclist of all time. And I think that's realized because he has a process and a recipe for success. Certainly you want to chalk up wins, but again, I think you still have a plan. You still got to react day to day, and one single event or result doesn't necessarily define anyone or anything or any
Hmm.
retailer.
Agreed. Yeah, a good point. Process is really interesting. SOPs are really interesting to me, like having these standardized. I'm at a point in my career where I think I recognize I've shot from the hip quite a bit,
Sure.
and I recognize how impactful that can be to a business to have
Mm-hmm.
repeatable processes in place.
Yep.
That's a really good point. So
Yep.
you're in engineering,
Yep.
Baltimore. You clearly derive some value and some life experience in there. But when do you realize, nope, it's bikes?
Probably, probably, I was an engineer for a little over 4 years, and probably the last 18 months, what I realized was I was not able to be my genuine self. I had to kind of put on a show and a face every day to do my job, because the space I was in, I was working, our biggest customer was the Department of Defense. And so it's in a different world. That's a different world with different concerns and different budgets and different applications. And I realized that I was having to basically be an actor rather than myself to fit into that space and be successful. For me, I wanted to be successful. In order to be successful, you have to push. If I was going to push, I needed to adapt my personality and adapt my skills to be successful in that space. So that I wasn't able to reconcile those two things. And so I just realized that I needed to get to a space where I could be myself. And that's always been bikes. I think bikes have always been very core. Even before that Diamondback, I had bikes that I rode and loved those
Mhm.
bikes. And, I kind of stumbled into running and then biking and then bike racing. And I realized that when I'm in that endurance sphere, that's when I'm able to be my most genuine self. And so I kind of stumbled around looking for jobs, looking for jobs, looking for jobs. And then, like everything in the world, right place, right time. Ended up getting an offer to work at a bike shop that I had worked at part time in college. The owner there was looking for someone to manage his business while he took steps away. So it was kind of the perfect opportunity for me. As a new manager, of course, I had retail experience and had bike shop experience, but I was new to being a manager in a retail space. So he was taking steps away, and that allowed me to take steps in. And so for 5 years during the pandemic, I changed jobs. I took the job as the manager and kind of cut my teeth managing a group of people and a bike shop through one of the most ridiculous time periods I think that this industry maybe has ever seen. Certainly, I've only been present for this portion. There's a lot more. I respect that. But I would say that the pandemic bike industry bubble was quite a wild ride.
Yeah, maybe modern history has seen, not
Yeah.
just this industry, but modern, uh, you know, world. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything been, we're fortunate, I think, to be healthy and on the other side. So yeah, it was
Yes.
quite an experience.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
okay, so passion. And I think you mentioned this. We sent you some questions in advance. I
Hmm.
think around your retail philosophy and
Hmm.
the product, being the interaction. This
Hmm.
idea that and I love that. I think we have a couple of tools we use at the agency around like thinking about the customer, and
Hmm.
one is the story brand. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's the customer is the hero. That's kind of the
Hmm.
idea, and we go back to that a lot. And
Hmm.
so I love the idea, and so what are when you think about that, the customer and that interaction,
Hmm.
what are 2 to 3 behaviors that you're coaching your team to help create that sort of world class feel and I'll add on my own spin there, is like the customer is the hero
Yeah.
experience.
I think the number one thing that comes to mind is humility. Having a lot of humility and maybe recognize, and in the same vein, like recognizing that we don't have all the answers. No one does. No one person, no one bike shop, no one whoever has all the answers, right? And so right away recognizing that you need to have humility in order to exist in a retail space. I think in right along that, but slightly different, is kind of a learn it all mentality. So those two things go hand in hand. And the second anyone walks into our store, I think they're often, I believe it, I see it all the time. People are refreshed because we kind of right away just ask some questions to our customers, right? And this might seem obvious at first, like, why are you here? What are you looking for? Great. But we go a lot deeper than that. And it's us, we're trying to really understand what our customers want, not just from a product in that moment, but why are they riding a bike in general? What is it that they're using this for? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is probably pretty simple. And it's just, I like riding a bike and I want to ride a bike. And that's great. And we respect that. And we can use that to help that experience piece for them. But I think there's a lot of customers that also don't know what they want, or they want something, but maybe they don't want to say it out loud, or maybe they need some help trying to get to it. And so for us, it's that humility and learn it all mentality allow us to, I think, lower the barrier of engagement with our customers, understand what it is that they want truly and genuinely, and then turn around and provide them with a product or a service or something that helps them achieve that goal. And I don't think this is novel. I mean, this is, I think, kind of fundamental sales process, which is to ask questions, understand what the consumer's looking for, so that you can make that product that product recommendation. But I think we're doing it. We're taking it to the next level. Um, because as you had mentioned, what I believe is we're a retailer. And what does that mean? It means that we are selling other people's products. We don't manufacture anything. We're putting products in a store. We're consolidating the store so that it's a one-stop shop for all things cycling, and that has value. But I think the other part of that value is the experience, the knowledge, the emotional side, the culture, the branding that we bring to this space. And I think that starts from those interactions. And those interactions, you have to be humble, and you have to be a learn it all. We want to know about what our customers are doing, not tell them about products that they don't care about. So I know you asked for 2 to 3, but those are the two that really
Yeah.
stick out to me in terms of what we're doing. The last piece of it, and I think this is, to me, this should be really everyone on planet Earth, I think, should be striving for this, but it's being a kind, emotional human being. Um, and what does that mean? It means just treating people exceptionally well, no matter what, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you have to spend, no matter what question that you bring to us. I don't care if you just purchased a Canyon bike online and you need help pumping up a tire. I'm going to do that with a smile on my face, because we're all human beings living on this earth. And I think we all deserve an opportunity to have a good time on this earth. And so that's just
Mhm.
the energy that we want to put out into this world. So those are my three things for you.
I think that's great. Um, I would say sort of like baked into that, if you would agree, and if you don't, let me know. But baked
Sure.
into that is sort of like the goal of building trust with the customer, and sort of like a
Hmm.
big part of what you're doing in this process, the questions and sort of like getting at the why is building
Hmm.
trust. Is there anything you've seen, um, in your travels that has like really, maybe a common trust breaking exercise? Is there anything you've seen, you've like people like other shops? I don't like to point the finger, it's not like that, but
Sure.
have you
Sure.
in your journeys, have you seen something that's like common for breaking trust without, maybe people do it without realizing it?
I think, yeah, I think it's unintentional. To your point, I wouldn't point the finger at anyone. I think what I'm about to say is a very unintentional consequence. I think there's a lot of retailers out there that put products on display and expect people to buy those products. And that's not necessarily a wrong assumption, but the reality is consumers don't walk into stores and just pick things up off the shelf and buy them. They have to reconcile the ends. And so what I see the biggest miss is I don't think that there are empowered retail salespeople out there in numbers who are able to tie consumer needs to products. I think there are retailers that put things out on display and expect consumers to buy them. But the reality is you need empowered, kind, humble salespeople who can connect those two ends. That's what I see. We skipped over it. After I was at that bike shop. I was a territory manager for Trek for a short period of time, and I had the purview of seeing dozens of retailers. And again, the biggest thing I saw, and one of the huge motivating factors for me personally, was how many retailers are just putting things on display and crossing their fingers that a consumer's going to come in and buy them. Oh, SRAM Axis group sets. People should want those. I'm going to buy them. I'm going to put them on display. Oh, carbon fiber bikes. People want those. I'm going to buy them. I'm going to put them on display. That's like 1/4 of the battle. The other 3/4 of the battle are then finding the consumers and selling them the product. And I think it's that 3/4 of the battle that people just, I don't think people are doing it at all in numbers, right? Certainly there are shops out there that are doing that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the miss. And I think about retail in general in 2026, and I just fear that there aren't enough people that are putting in the energy inside the store to make these connections, because you can't just put things on a shelf and hope that they sell, right? It's not, those days are over, right? We had that luxury in 2020, 2021, and 2022, and that's
Yeah.
gone now.
I agree. We're a marketing agency. We focus on bike shops for a reason. That's our
Sure.
business, and we see it quite a bit. The
Yep.
conversations are around, what do you do for marketing? I had a conversation last night. What do you do for marketing? Nothing.
Yeah.
So
I can,
you need something out there to bring people in, right? That's part of that equation. Like, get people in the door, and then
yeah.
sell them the thing that it makes sense for them. I love that.
And one of the things that really sticks for me from my engineering days is this phrase that will live with me forever. And the phrase is pretty simple. It's hope is not a plan. Hope is not a plan.
Mm-mm.
You can hope that your radio is going to work as it's traveling through space, communicating data back. But hope isn't a plan. So you've got to design it, prove it, test it, fly it, test it, manufacture it, test it, and then you can ship it, right? So it's every single step of the way has to be curated, intentional, thought out, tried, tested, repeated, tried, tested, repeated, changed, tried, tested, repeated. And if you do that, if you have this process, and if you have these, a flywheel is another term that a lot of companies like to use, right? If you have your flywheel of how your company spins, it
Mhm.
becomes so much easier to start changing the direction that your company is heading and start changing performance. And I think, the last thing I would add while we're on this subject is I still think there's so many retailers that aren't trying in this space. And so to me, it's when I think about some of the things that maybe have made us successful, it's not that I don't think that my ideas are any better than anyone else's. I really don't. And
Mhm.
frankly speaking, I love ideas from everyone, but it's just doing the thing. You got to pick up, some days you got to pick up the screwdriver and you got to you got to turn the screws. You got to actually do it.
Yeah.
So that's a big, so you mentioned what are those two or three behaviors that we try here in the store? It's being humble, having humility, um, caring deeply about our customers from an emotional standpoint, and being a learn it all. And we're going to try that until we need to do something different. And when we do, we'll try something different.
Yeah, I love that. And we always talk about, the the learning is in the doing, right? You don't
Hmm.
really get better. You don't learn to ride a bike at a seminar. I think that's a great.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
it's a really good segue, because you
Yeah.
moved away from service appointments. You built a process around this.
Hmm.
What was broken, and sort of like, take me through, like, what you're doing now. That's
Yeah.
that, maybe that flywheel, however you want to position that.
Sure. So, I mean, one of the biggest observations I made, and I've been working in bike shops since 2010. I worked at two different bike shops in college, one in central Pennsylvania and one in State College when I was going to Penn State. I went back and worked at the one in central Pennsylvania, as I mentioned, and now I'm here at Colonial. So I've worked at three bike shops across four different times. One of the data points that I've always seen is the number of people who arrive on time for their bicycle service appointments, I have tracked it over certain periods of time. In my most recent tracking last year, we were at less than a 30% rate of people showing up for their appointments. So I love numbers, I love data. And that's not the first time I've seen that sort of phenomenon. Years prior, I hadn't actually tracked it, but my gut tells me it was less than 50%. And so when I took over the job here, when I took the job here at Colonial and I became the managing partner, one of the very first things I did was said, all right, we're not going to do service appointments unless we need to. There are customers and situations where it's well confined and you just need to help someone out. Fine, we'll do an
Mhm.
appointment then. Um, but I said we're not going to do service appointments, and it was like, whoa, we're gonna miss business. And I said that's fine, but if we're taking appointments and only 30% of the people are showing up, are we really missing business, or do we actually have no idea what our service business is? Um, Now, the hardest part of that is communicating what we are going to do to our customers, because certainly you could read that headline and go, oh, well, how am I going to do business with you, right? If you don't take appointments, what do I do? And so we've had to fly this flag, and make a very simple, effective message of what it is that we are doing, so it's very clear to people, and it's quite simple. And the message is something like this: we don't take appointments, and the reason we don't take appointments is it actually allows us to have a very clear understanding of what our service schedule is. And so, in order to do business with us in the service department, you can come into the store with your bike at any time that's convenient for you. You don't need to call us. You don't need to let us know. You just come in when it's convenient for you. You're going to come in, you tell us that you're here for service, or we'll ask you, right? Because we have someone that greets people at the door. What brings you in? Oh, I'm here for service. Awesome. Go to the service counter. Within 5 minutes, someone is going to look at your bike, talk to you about what's going on with your bike, present you with a detailed quote, price, and time of when you're going to get that back. So all you need to do is show up at the store when it's convenient for you, and we're going to get you a price and a time of when it's going to be back. The after effect of this is, because we only ever have work in the store that is here and ready to be worked on, our turnaround time is 48 hours. So right now, if you bring me a bike today, I could get it done probably by tomorrow afternoon. And I might quote Saturday depending upon the schedule, but it's 48 hours. In the height of the season, so let's say end of April, beginning of May, we're probably going to be out to 72 hours, maybe 96 hours, so like that 4 business days. But we know that's coming. And because, again, we only ever have a schedule of bikes that are here waiting to be worked on, it's really easy for us to flex up and chew through more work, whether we come in an hour early, we stay an hour late, like, right, but that becomes our operational decision, as opposed to having a long line of appointments. They're not here in the store. I can't work ahead if I wanted to. If I need to change anyone's appointment, I'm making phone calls, I'm sliding things forward. But more importantly than that, my research leads me to believe that less than half of the people are showing up for their appointments. And so what's the point of an appointment if they're not showing up?
Mhm.
And so what we've realized is, this is my third year in the bike shop. And for 3 straight years, our labor, and year to date so far, we're up by 35%. But this is the
Wow.
third year in a row where we're seeing, the past two was greater than 40% increase in labor. And so it was a scary step, but we control so much of our destiny. And at the same time, I truly believe the experience is better for our customer. And here's why I say that: they come in whenever they want.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. They don't need to make an appointment. If they want to show up on a Tuesday morning at 10, great. If they want to show up on a
Mhm.
Friday evening at 6, all the same to us. The second reason I think it's better for the customers, because they show up one time, they have one interaction. At the end of that one interaction, they know exactly how much they're going to pay, and they know exactly when it's going to be done. It couldn't be more clear. So to me, it's one touch point. They get all the answers. That's it. And I
Mhm.
think when I put myself in the shoes of a consumer, and case in point, this morning I dropped my Toyota off at the dealer up the street, um, for an oil change. So I scheduled an appointment online. I showed up for my appointment online, and they asked me what time I wanted my car done by. And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I think I selected that online,
Mhm.
but that's fine. No problem. I
Yeah.
told the guy I'd love it by 2 p.m., right? Oh, well, well, could we do it a little bit later? And I'm thinking like, all right, well, so I selected it online and now it's getting changed. Okay, no problem, whatever. Yeah, it can be done later. I don't need it until I go home at 6. Okay, and hey, I know that you selected an oil change and a tire rotation. Unfortunately, those prices online were wrong, and it's actually going to be $10 more. Okay, so I've spent time filling out this form.
Hmm.
I show up and everything's different, and I'm just like, okay, cool, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about this erosion of trust, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Missed
I'm not saying
opportunity.
that, right? It's no one's fault that, well, it might be someone's fault that that happened,
Yeah.
but it's no one's fault that that happened, but at the same time, that doesn't seem like a great. We're striving to be the best.
Hmm.
My experience at Toyota this morning was pretty subpar. So
Yeah.
that's how I'm trying to change this tide. I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's what we're doing here, and that's why we've
Yeah.
changed what we've changed.
Quick follow-up question. So just thinking about your service department, if you're
Yep.
okay sharing, how many, like, middle of the season, you guys are humming, how many full-time service folks do you have on?
We have two full-time
Two
year-round
full-time,
mechanics. Yep.
two full-time
And
year. All right.
two full-time year-round,
That's
and then
helpful.
I'm I'm very much a flex player, so there are weeks where I will put in full-time minutes for myself in the service
Hmm.
department.
Hmm.
I will come in early, I will stay late, so I'm kind of,
Yeah.
the flex player there. It's my
Sure.
role. And then
Yeah.
I also have a gentleman who helps 1 day a week, and then I have another gentleman who helps 1 day a week. So,
So you've got
there's
some
five.
people you can lean
Correct.
on for
Yep.
service. Okay, that's
Yep.
that's awesome. I appreciate that. Take me
Yep.
through, like, somebody comes in. I come in with my bike. What happens in the first 5 minutes?
Yeah, so you come in with your bike. The first thing, and I do the service writing here as well. When like that's my day job is the service
Hmm.
writer.
Hmm.
So you come in with your bike. First question is, what brings you in today? And you're going to look at me and be like, dude, I'm here with my bike. I need a tune-up. And I'm going to say, great. Why do you think you need a tune-up? Right? What is it? Is it just you do this every March? You don't question it. You just come into a bike shop. You give them your bike every March for a tune-up. Okay. Or is it, oh, well, actually, I'm having some issues with my gears, my tires going flat, right? Start uncovering what it is that's going on. Um, and then it's after that, you intake, intake, intake. After that, I put the bike in the stand and I tell the customer, I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes looking over your bike. When I'm done with that, I'm going to write up the work order ticket. Does that sound good? And the customer says, yeah, that sounds great. And then I might say, depending upon the situation, I might say instead of 2 minutes, maybe it's a complex full suspension bike with a lot of problems. I might say, I need 10 minutes. Why don't you go have a seat, have a cup of coffee, look around the store, what have you, and I'll come grab you in a few. So then the bike is in the stand. I'm going through it front to back, top to bottom. And then I'm immediately jumping to the computer. We use Ascend, and I'm using Ascend to build out a work order ticket. So that is all happening again, within 2 to 10 minutes, I'm looking over the bike, I'm building the work order, and I'm taking my notes so I can build this price. Um, the customer's still looking around the store. They don't know that I'm doing all three of these things. And then when I'm at a point where I think I've got everything pretty much buttoned up from the work order side and I've made my notes and I know what's going on, I invite the customer back and we go through it line by line. Okay, you mentioned that your tires were going flat. I did an assessment. I see that there is a piece of glass in each of your tires. You mentioned that you were having shifting issues. Your drivetrain is
Hmm.
really dirty. I believe that the best solution here is to clean your drivetrain, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Line by line with the customer. And when I'm done, I show them the full price. I also show them when we're going to have it done. And I say, does that all sound good to you? Did I miss anything? If I miss something, great. They tell me. I make mistakes all the time.
Hmm.
If not, they've just approved the price. They've approved the time frame. We've got the bike. Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Um, Bike gets checked in. I move on, and we're on to the next thing.
Do you have um, like, any communication strategies you use with the customers beyond that initial? So, like many service, uh, you something's broken you didn't see. Often the case with, or
Yeah,
something's worn. You can't see everything in that, on the
100%.
stand. How do you handle? I guess a couple of things. How do you handle those, non-caught, and then if someone wanted to adopt this strategy of, like, no appointments and just taking in folks, as they come in whenever they want
Hmm.
to come by, anything, like, that needs to be true operationally for that to work?
Yes, great questions. So certainly we miss things, 100%. I missed a bottom bracket that was a bit notchy. Once we got the crank out, once we got the chain off, once we felt the bearing, drive side bottom bracket bearing needed to be replaced. So part of that communication with that customer, when we're looking at that receipt and I'm going line by line and I'm saying, this is what it's going to cost, here's when it's going to be done. I always say to the customer, if this price or this date is going to change, I'm going to call you every time. So,
Hmm.
and again, that's, to me, it's just, you're setting the expectation with the customer, you're telling them the plan. And I think that's the operational piece that I believe is the most valuable. Our plan could differ from the next guy's plan, but as long as everyone's telling the customer the plan, the customer leaves your store with peace of mind that
Hmm.
you as the professional bike shop have the problem well documented, well sorted, and you've got a plan to fix it. And so this happened last week. I missed a bottom bracket. Um, Jim got the crank out. He said, "Hey, Colin, this is going to need a bottom bracket." Cool. I pick up the phone. I call the customer. I let them know, "Hey, I missed this. Here's what's going on. The bottom bracket's $25 or whatever, and we're going to have that bottom bracket in here next Tuesday. Please let me know if that's a problem. Call me back if that's a problem." And we wait till the customer calls us back and confirms that they're okay with spending the extra money. Um, we kind of keep going on. So certainly but that's the exception, not the norm, right? And again, I
Hmm.
think it's how you deliver that message to the customer, which is what we say or what I say, which is
Hmm.
if this dollar amount's going to change or this time's going to change, I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
Um, and we just set that expectation. So the big thing for us, as I mentioned at the beginning, is kind of having an understanding of what our actual workload is. What is our real workload for service? Because that ultimately allows you to have a clear calendar and a clear schedule. So I mentioned we use Ascend as our point of sale
Hmm.
system. Ascend allows a feature called time-based service. So every single labor SKU that we have has a time associated with it. So for example, adjusting a rear derailleur, I think we allot 10 minutes to adjust a rear derailleur. So if I give one of my full-time mechanics a bike with a wonky rear derailleur, the expectation is that they can adjust it in 10 minutes. Not replace a cable and adjust it, not install a chain and adjust it, just adjust that rear derailleur in
Hmm.
10 minutes.
Hmm.
So we went through our database and we put a time associated with every single labor SKU. And certainly our first pass at that was wrong. And we've had a couple iterations of getting those times dialed in. So I don't want to sugarcoat that. It took some time. And then our service schedule. So if we create a work order for Joe Smith and I put adjust rear derailleur, right? Joe Smith's work order is going to take 10 minutes. So I've got two mechanics. They work 8 hours a day. They're going to take some breaks. They're not 100% efficient. So each day they have a set number of minutes. So let's just, case in point, let's say the total minutes available for the day are 600. Well, Joe Smith just came in for his derailleur adjustment. So now I have 590 minutes left in the day.
Hmm.
So I can take on another 590 labor
Yeah.
minutes this day, and you just go from there. And what
Totally
that
makes
allows you
sense.
to it allows you to pack your schedule, it allows you to adjust things strategically. It allows the guys when they get in here in the morning to look at what's going to take a lot of time, right? Maybe we need to get started on that at 10 a.m. We probably shouldn't leave that project for 2:30. Um, or the other way around. Maybe they want to rip out the easy stuff first. But I think it allows for more operational freedom. And like I said, it allows us to make the operational decisions because we have this big queue of work. As opposed to scheduling, you're waiting for customers. We don't want to wait
Hmm.
for customers. We want to work when we can work.
So service is up. You've got 2026 in front of us. What are you seeing as your biggest opportunity in 2026? Is it the service? Is there some sales opportunity that you're looking at? Maybe repeat business with existing customers, bringing in some new business. Where are you guys? Are you like hold down the fort? Let's maintain course, or do you have goals for growth? What's the plan?
You know, I we it's a loaded question in the best kind of way. I still believe that we have opportunity in every single pillar of our business. I've kind of segmented our business into 5 pillars. So we have sales and service, the most obvious two. We also have inventory, marketing, and employees. And so those five segments of the business are kind of how I think about the business. I think our sales and service business is ripe with opportunities simply from customers in the community that don't know we exist. I believe that there's a significant number of people that just don't know that Colonial Bicycle in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, is here. So I believe that simply by a basic marketing plan, and for me, that's using the Google ad space. I believe that that will generate additional revenue above and beyond the past 2 calendar years. And we've been trending in that direction. I believe the big opportunities for us as a business are really twofold. Number one, it's inventory management. It should be no surprise to anyone who works in retail that inventory is the ultimate can be the ultimate death of a retailer. And then the second thing is employees. And what I mean by that is, do our employees have the tools that they need to be successful? Do they have the skills that they need to be successful? Do they understand what success means? And so I spend a lot of time coaching, role playing, training employees, because I want everyone here to be an all-star at their job. I want them to love their job, and I want them to feel empowered and professional in their job. So that's a huge thing to me. Um, and I think that will only bolster the sales and service once people come in the door, right? It's one thing when people come in the door, but imagine if they come in the door and our employees are all giving them 5 out of 5 service.
Hmm.
So then the last piece I mentioned, which I think is the real, I mean, this is like, if anyone had if anyone could figure out inventory, I think you'd build a machine that lasts forever from a retail standpoint. And what I mean by that is, I think not only getting the right inventory, meaning the right dollar amount, that's relatively straightforward. There's a lot of good benchmarking that suggests how much inventory a retail store should have. But it's the mix. It's the mix of product within that dollar value that I think is the real problem. And what we're seeing, one of the things that we're seeing a lot of is just the continued, it's not even discounting anymore. It's price fluctuation. Last year we had things go up, then we've got major discounts on products.
Hmm.
And that ultimately leaves me kind of wondering if inventory has as much value today as it maybe did 6, 7, 8 years ago before the pandemic. Now, certainly we're going to still sell inventory, but why I'm saying this is we probably are better off spending a significant portion of our time making sure that our labor and services business and our customer experience is fantastic, because I don't know, in a world where margins are compressing and prices are fluctuating and vendors are consolidating, I don't want to have all my eggs in the inventory basket. We need to diversify our value such that we can make money across all these different pillars, if you will.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's kind of how I'm
that's
thinking about it.
yeah, that's a really good point. So, like, if is there something if you think about like service demos, rides, bike fit, community, anything? Is there anything that you're excited about building this year?
All of that. I mean, we do, we're doing all of that. So I have a fit
Mhm.
studio, and it's been quite successful. And this winter has been record setting for us. I believe that that just comes from that word of mouth advertising. There aren't a ton of shops that are doing bike fits, and so strategy in Google combined with word of mouth, combined with good experience, right? You start spinning this business upwards. And then in terms of, community, I mean, that's like front and center. When I joined this business, I wrote on a white sheet of paper the vision that I have. And the vision I have, it's again, it's not novel, it's nothing earth shattering. And in short, it's we want to enhance, maximize, increase the positive experience that our community has with the sport of cycling. Pretty straightforward. But when you really think about how you execute on that, selling bikes from a retail box doesn't really actually solve that vision, doesn't really get you to that vision. It just gives people equipment. If you want your community to have a better experience with bikes, you need to go create that better experience with bikes. I said this in another interview I did over the summer, which is really our relationship with our customer starts when they leave the store. That's really, I think, where the magic happens. What do I mean by that? So we do a lot of sponsorship. We
Mhm.
sponsor NYC. We sponsor the local NYC team. I sponsor a high school mountain bike team. I sponsor a high school road team. We sponsor a development team. And why I sponsor those teams is because it's a way in which Colonial Bicycle can positively influence our community. I mean, we're talking about
Mhm.
giving money to the riders in our community so that they can have access to rides, places to ride, teams to ride with, infrastructure to ride. The
Mhm.
second thing we do is a lot of clinics. And our clinics are wide ranging, from e-bike technology to fix a flat to bike fitting to training. I mean, everything, right? And it's always free and it always will be free
Mhm.
because we want to instill that knowledge with our community. Um, and then the other side of it too is bike riding and advocacy. So we have all sorts of partners. I've got ambassadors, ride leaders, members of the community who I'm either empowering to ride, joining them on rides, helping them ride, and these rides are wide ranging from charity rides to I just want to ride my road bike or mountain bike to we want a woman's only ride. And so there's really no shortage of ways we're trying to create reasons to ride, create ways to ride, create community to ride, and support our community while they're doing it. And I think if you do that for a couple of years, you become the natural you become the natural brand in the community that's associated with bike riding. And full
Mhm.
circle, we are a retail business. We're a for-profit retail business. And so I want to create a business that's sustainable. So we need to make sure that we have the revenue and we're generating profit so that we can have a sustainable business so that we can continue to do these things indefinitely. That to me is why I'm here. And that's how we've sort of built this machine to start rolling forward.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you taking time to chat. Um, uh, anything, the shop, Instagram is Colonial Bicycle Company. Is that right?
Yep.
Um,
Yes.
uh, they can find you guys at colonialbicycle.com. And I guess if you're in New England and you want a shop that's obsessive about experience and it has a really interesting service philosophy, stop by right in the Portsmouth area, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Colin, and we'll look forward to hopefully seeing you here soon. I'd love to get out and ride that Route One
It's really
Portsmouth
nice.
coastline. So thanks so
Yeah.
much. You
Thank you
have a
for
great
having
day.
me. I
Yeah.
appreciate your time. Thank you. You too.
Great to have you.